Welcome to Let's Talk Near Death, the podcast show where we talk about life, death, and experiences somewhere in between. I'm Kirsty Salisbury, the host of the show, and you can join me as I talk to everyday people with not so everyday experiences. Let's talk near death. Joining me today, we have got Sharon Milliman, who is based in West Virginia in the US. And Sharon, it's great to have you here. You had a near-death experience after you were struck by lightning, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is an amazing story. I can't wait to hear the details. Can you start back at the beginning of that experience? What happened? What were you doing at the time? And then take us through what happened on your near-death experience.
I was sitting on the back steps and behind my house, and I was talking on a cordless phone, and it had just begun to rain. And my husband at the time had just got home from work, and he was an electrician at one of the area plants. And I had asked him if it was okay if I talk on the phone while it was raining. And he said that was fine, that I could do that and be safe. And he had gone into the house, and it was probably within about 5 minutes, and I heard this thunder in the distance, and then the lightning bolt came out of the sky and hit my right arm. And when it hit my arm, it went through me underneath the house and blew the transformer that was in front of our house, and it rendered our circuit without power for like 4 hours. But when it did that, it was really shocking.
I've never heard a story like this. Yeah, wow. You said that you asked your husband whether it was okay to use the phone.
Yes.
What made you do that? I don't know. I tend to just pick up the phone. Maybe it's because I'm on a different sort of wavelength. But what made you think maybe I need to ask him, there's a storm, is it okay to use a phone?
I don't even know. I knew that, well, because I've been hit 4 times by lightning. And
wow. 4 times.
Yeah, twice
Gosh.
was ball lightning and twice was the lightning bolt. And so I have a healthy respect for electricity. And I know that when you're on a phone, but see, if this was a cordless phone, and I knew that if you're on with a cord, that electricity can be dangerous when it's raining. But this was a cordless. And he was being an electrician. I thought, okay, he would know. So I asked the question, and I got the answer, but it wasn't safe.
It wasn't maybe the best one. Okay, so you've just been struck by lightning through your right shoulder. You said it went down through the house. What happened to you at that point?
Well, it left char marks on the concrete steps where I was sitting. You could see the perfect little marks where my rear end was sitting, and then the next step where my feet were. It was char marks. And that's when I died. I felt a searing pain in my arm, and then the next thing, my spirit just lifted up out of my body. It was kind of like peeling a banana. It was just like I just lifted right up out of myself, and I found myself going into my house, and at that particular moment, I did not know that I was dead. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I went into my house, and I'm walking through my house, and I'm looking at the curtains. Everything had this burnt gold look to it. Mm-hmm. And I looked at my curtains, and they were not my curtains. And I looked at the furniture in the dining room, and it was not my furniture. And
what do you mean it was not your furniture? Not your furniture because now it's got this strange color to it from the burn, or you didn't recognize it?
It was my house, but it was not my stuff in the house. It was somebody else's stuff. And I started to flip out,
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I'm walking through the house, and I'm thinking, okay, my children were here, but they're not here now. My husband had just got home from work, and he's not here now. And I'm hearing this old-fashioned radio program playing, and I couldn't find it. If you've ever watched the Waltons and you heard that kind of a radio show playing, that's what I heard. And so I walked through the dining room and through the front room, the living room goes this all open area. And I kept noticing, this is not my furniture. These are not my curtains. My family is not here. And where's that radio program coming from? Because there was no power. And
you had no inclination that you were dead at this point?
No, I didn't know.
Wow.
And it was, I started to panic. I really got scared just for an instant. And then all of a sudden everything changed, and I started going through these. I noticed there was a big presence with me, a huge, big presence. And I felt this immense love coming from this presence. And I started moving very rapidly through these pink and gold clouds. And I didn't move up and I didn't move down. I moved sideways, like as if I had just walked from one room to another. But I was moving really fast through these clouds, and this huge, huge presence was with me. And I wasn't scared anymore. And I just felt so much love from this presence. It was just unbelievable, because I'd never felt anything like that before, ever. And it was just, I can't even explain the hugeness of this presence. And the love was just, it just filled every fiber of my whole entire being. And so we traveled through these gorgeous, absolutely beautiful pink and gold clouds. And when we got to the end of the clouds, there was this gorgeous garden. And these two young men greeted me. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I'm feeling quite overwhelmed by this as well. I mean, it's obviously been so impacting that it's still with you, even just as you talk about it. Go with it. Just let it flow. Go with it.
The two young men I thought they were angels at first. They were just beautiful. They were wearing this ivory linen clothing, and I don't know why it stood out to me. The weave pattern, it was a herringbone weave in the clothing that they were wearing. It was kind of like lounge clothing. I don't know. It was a very intricate, expensive linen that they were wearing, and they looked like surfer dudes, like they'd just been out on the beach all day long. They were glowing from inside, and their hair was tousled, and it was the color of mine. And at first I thought they were angels, but it wasn't. It was my two brothers who had died as babies, and they were now fully grown men, and they looked just like my dad when he was young. And they greeted me, and it was just like such a beautiful family reunion. And they stood with me. There was Michael on one side of me and Stephen on the other side. And it was so wonderful to see them. And they were with me, and that presence was still with me. And that's when I was given the information that I had died. And it was like, okay, this is fine. I'm okay with this. And then I saw this. I was given my life review, and the way I was given that was, it was like watching a movie on an old-fashioned movie reel.
Were you watching that with your eyes, or was it something that was being done telepathically or with a different sense?
I saw it with my eyes. And when my brothers talked to me, they might have been talking telepathically, but our lips were moving. I mean, we were talking like you and I are talking.
Yeah.
And but anyway, they were with me, and this huge presence was with me. And so I was watching this this black and white movie of my life, and they were with me, and all of these other people gathered around, and I knew who these people were, and they knew who I was, but I didn't know where I knew them from. And it was amazing, because I noticed their clothing, and it was like some of the women were wearing these beautiful Victorian dresses, and some of the men were in fancy suits, and then some of the people were in modern clothes like we are, but it was like lots of people from different time periods, and everybody was around the age of between maybe 25 and 30, somewhere in that age period.
Were they all people that you had known in your life who had passed on, or you're not sure who they were? Like, you knew them, but you don't know where from?
Right. I knew them and they knew me, but I didn't know where I knew them from.
Okay. And were some of them people that you knew you'd known them and they'd passed on? Because now that you realize that you're dead and you've passed on as well, did you connect that you were talking to people, or you're with people who you'd had your life with?
That question never even entered my mind at that particular moment. I just knew there was all these loving people, and they loved me, and I just never had so much love in my life as I experienced while I was there. And what I noticed about my life review, I was watching it, and it happened so fast. And I kind of looked at my brothers, and I was like, is that it? I must live a boring life, because there was no judgment at all, only love. And that's when I learned that God doesn't judge us. We judge ourselves. And there was no judgment from anybody else. And I was just kind of, all of this stuff was happening, and it seemed like I was kind of in the wow factor, I guess, because of the beautiful garden and the being with my brothers, and having watched this life review and realizing that I'm not being judged, and just realizing that I'm dead. And I'm okay. This is okay. Yeah. It's really cool, and this place is awesome, and it's gorgeous, and now what's going to happen?
Yeah, there's quite a lot going on in just that itself. The fact that you're dead, you're in this place, that's quite a lot to deal with. Yeah.
I was just kind of going with the flow,
Did you have any perception of time? You said that your life review was quite quick. What made you perceive that it was quick?
There wasn't any time there. To be honest with you, I could have been only dead for a matter of minutes, but it seemed like I was in heaven forever, and so much happened while I was there, and I took in so much, and there was so much to see, and so much I could feel and I even looked down the front of my body, and I could see that I still had a body, and it was lighter. I could feel that it wasn't weighed down with gravity, and I could see that my skin was glowing like everybody else's skin was glowing. But I looked at it to make sure I still had clothes on.
Yeah, I was just thinking, can you remember what you were wearing? You talked about the fabrics of these two, your brothers. What were you wearing? Can you remember?
The same thing that I was wearing before, when I died.
Right.
I still had the shorts and the shirt,
Yeah. Any evidence of the lightning?
I'm not naked, thank you.
Yeah, the relief, I've got clothes on. Yeah.
The world will thank you too.
So you said that you had your life review, and then there was so much to see and do. What happened after your life review?
Well, I heard a male voice say, what you put into the universe will come back to you. And I had never heard words like that before. So I was like, okay, and what does that mean? And then it was like, at that point, it was like being hooked up to a giant IV bottle of divine knowledge. And all of a sudden,
Wow.
I started getting all of this, you know, divine knowledge, answers to questions I didn't even have the voice to verbalize the questions, and it was like getting answers to how the universe was put together and how God did this and how he did that. And I found out that God is very simple, and we humans make everything so complicated, and it's really not that complicated. And you know and I was just like, oh my God, you are so awesome. You are so awesome. We make everything so hard, and it's not that hard. No, I just kept telling, God, you're just amazing. You're just an awesome God. You're so awesome. I was just in that wow factor still.
Oh, I'm sure. When you talk about God, you're talking about a single entity, or was it more of a oneness? Did you feel like you met, I don't quite know how to word this, like an individual God, or explain who God was?
Well, as I got further into the NDE, I did meet God, and he was I realized that God, as the creator of all things, can appear as anything he chooses to. If I was a cat, he could appear as a bird if he wants to get the message across. Or if I'm a bird, he can appear as a worm, whatever. But to me, he wanted to have a relationship with me. He wanted to have a conversation with me. So he wasn't going to appear as some scary thing with 3 heads or whatever. He was going to appear to me as something that I was going to feel comfortable with. So he appeared to me as a man. And so after my life review, and I'm walking in the garden with my brothers, Jesus walks out of this grove of trees. And I was just like, oh my gosh. When I saw him, I've totally forgotten my brothers. And I don't know where they disappeared to. I was so, I don't know, I want to say in love with, but I don't mean it in that sense. But I just, he was telling me how much he loved me, how he'd always loved me, how he'd always been with me, and that I didn't need to be afraid. And it was just, I was just so overwhelmed with being with him that my brothers disappeared somewhere. And anyway, so Jesus walked with me to this beautiful wooded glen, and there were, if I could explain the details, the colors were so rich and vibrant, and the air was so sweet and clean, and there was music, and I don't even know, the birds, or I could hear the birds singing, and there was a, a, a stream that glistened like diamonds, and everything was so beautiful. And so when Jesus took me to the wooded glen, there was these beautiful blue flowers and these little pine cones, and there was a log, and I sat down on the log, and there was a man sitting on the other end of the log, and I knew that man was God. And he had there's a picture that a girl named Akian, I think her name is, she drew a picture of the Prince of Peace, I think is the name of it. That's exactly what that man looked like. And He had short, curly black hair and a beard and the bluest eyes you have ever seen in your life. And he looked at me and he said, "What would you do if it was just me and you?" And I was like, "What?" And he said, "What would you do if it was just me and you?" And I said, "I don't know what you mean." So he said, "Come with me." And we walked a little ways and he just kind of waved his hand like this. And it was like opened up the sky. And I saw um, swirling planets and sparkling stars and rainbow colored gases. And it was just magnificent, but there were no trees, no people, no houses, nothing, just, the vastness of the universe.
Mm.
And then he kind of closed it up and we went back and sat on the log and he said, "Now what would you do if it was just me and you? No parents, no husband, no children, just me and you." And I was like, wow. I said, after 10 minutes, you wouldn't like me very much because I would talk your ear off.
Yeah, I can imagine the pressure you'd feel too to answer that.
I was just clueless. I was not giving the proper answers you give God, but
Yeah.
he just kind of laughed, and his eyes sparkled and he was so patient and so loving. It was so.
Oh, wow.
But he said,
Yeah.
I looked at this tree that was in front of me and I started noticing the details of the bark and the I could see in the veins of the leaves, I could see the energy or the life flowing through the leaves. And because my senses were so heightened and I was so aware of everything, and I think that this is what he was wanting, but I noticed how everything was connected to everything, and how the tree, um, the tree needed the air, and the tree needed the nutrients in the ground, and everything was connected to everything else, and how important everything is to the life of that tree, and how um, anyway, I noticed that, and I said to God, and I don't know why I said this because I don't know anything about the Quran. I've never read the Quran. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
anything about the Islamic faith or anything. But I looked at God and I said, "God, your 100th name in the book of the Quran is God is everywhere, God is nowhere, and God is in me." And he said, "Yeah, that's right." And I said, "God, you made this tree. You are in this tree. So when I see this tree, I see you." He said, "Yeah, that's right."
Oh, wow.
And I started thinking about my parents. And I said, "God, you made my parents. You are in my parents. So when I see my parents, I see you." And he said,
Mm.
"Yeah, that's right." And I said, "God, there are people that have been cruel and have hurt me deeply." I said, "But you made them and you are in them. So when I see them, I see you." And he said, "Yes." And then he said, "But I want to ask you something." I said, "Okay." He said, "When you look in the mirror, what do you see?" And my normal answer would have, because of, you know, things that have happened in my life and things people have said to me, I would have said not much. But that's not something you say to God. So
Mm.
I said, "God, you made me. You're in me. So when I look in the mirror, I see you." And he said, "Yeah, that's right."
Wow.
So what he taught me was that your beauty comes from inside, and it's not what other people say to you. And that
Mm.
God doesn't make mistakes and he doesn't make junk. So he loves you perfectly, broken and all. He loves you no matter
Mm.
what. and that I had to find value in myself because he loved me, and that I have worth and purpose just being me because he does love me. And that's what he wanted to teach me. So
Wow, that's beautiful.
After our conversation, he was drawing with a stick in the sand or in the dirt there, and I don't know what the symbols were, but he taught me how to break down the barriers that I had built up around my heart because of people's cruelty. So I had learned not to trust people. So he wanted to teach me that I could trust him above all people. So I looked in his eyes and I saw such purity, such, there aren't even any words to describe the absolute, I don't even have words. He was so pure, and so his eyes were so blue and so clean and so real and so pure, and all the barriers that I built up around my heart to protect me just crumbled in that instant. And I learned that I could trust him, and we looked at each other and I could just look in his soul, that's what I was doing, was looking into his soul, and I could only do it for a moment, and then I looked away and he went back to doodling in the dirt with the stick.
I love it, keeping it real. Yeah. Wow. And is that something that you've been able to bring back and hang on to? Has it been a lot easier to feel your self-worth and your value after coming back to this world?
It has. He is the one thing that has kept me going.
Wow.
That lesson that he taught me, I don't even know. I don't think I keep having these near-death experiences. I keep wanting to go back. It keeps sending me back here. No, Sharon. I keep saying, why?
Yeah. How many near-death experiences have you had?
I've had 3.
3. And you've been struck by lightning 4 times. This is amazing. Yeah. So were your near-death experiences all around incidents of being struck by lightning?
No. I was 13 and I drowned in the pool at the Y, and a swim instructor told me he wanted me to dive, do a head first dive into the 10-foot section of the pool, and I just couldn't do it. And so he grabbed me and he threw me in. And
oh no! Oh, he would have felt really bad when that went all wrong.
Well, he just stood there. He froze.
Yeah. And so you died at that point when you drowned?
Yes.
Can you share with us what happened there? I want to come back to the lightning story. I just find it so fascinating that you've had 3 near-death experiences and been struck by lightning 4 times. So when you drowned, was it similar? Was it a similar experience where you came out of your body and you're not quite aware that you're dead, but you know something's a bit different?
What was really, here I am laying on the bottom of the pool, and there's this beautiful light, and I'm looking up and I see, it was a very odd experience. I see this beautiful light, and the light is coming closer to me, and I feel warm, like I'm wrapped in this beautiful golden blanket, and I feel all this love, and I'm not scared. But I'm laying on the bottom of the pool, and my mom, she's in the balcony, clear on the opposite side of the of of the the, the pool area.
Was she alive or had she passed away already?
No, she was alive.
Okay.
And she was sitting up where all the parents were, and this was like up on a balcony area on the other end of the other end of the room. And so I'm laying on the bottom of the pool, and I can see her, and it's like a close-up shot of her face, and I could hear her screaming for someone to come in and get me. And I'm just laying there on the bottom of the pool, and I'm thinking, how can I see her? And the lifeguard, the woman lifeguard who had the little children at the 3-foot end of the pool, and now I'm in the 10-foot. I heard her yell, "Bob, go in and get her." And he's just standing there. And I can see all this stuff going on. I can hear plainly what people are saying, and people are running around screaming and yelling and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just laying there, and this light keeps getting closer and closer, and I can feel all this love and warmth. And I'm just thinking, what's wrong with everybody? This is amazing. This is beautiful. And I kept, I don't know if I was going to the light or the light was coming to me.
Yeah.
And then I heard what sounded like a metal door slamming. And that's when I felt all the pain. What had happened was the lifeguard that had the middle-aged kids, he was also on the opposite end of the pool. Apparently he had jumped in and had got me. And he was doing the CPR and all that kind of stuff on me, and had pulled me to the side of the pool. And I remember throwing up water and coughing and all that. But I had heard that metal door slam, and I couldn't figure, and the light was gone. And I don't know, that's what I remember. And I saw people's feet, and I looked because I was laying on the ground. And I remember my mom, she was, crying and she came over to me, and I started breathing again.
Coming back to the lightning story, did you're sitting on the log, God's playing with a stick in the sand, is that what you said? And
well, it was dirt.
You're talking to him about various things. You said he imparted some kind of knowledge and definitely this affirmation that you are worthy and valued. Did you receive any other kind of specific information or a task or anything you felt you needed to do once you returned?
Well, I wrote a book, and I do a lot of, spiritual counseling for people, or, Jesus has come to visit me several times, physically visit me. And he did tell me in one of his visits, I took care of my mom for several years. I was her caregiver. She had Alzheimer's, and she died a couple of years ago. And he came and he visited me one day. I was mopping the kitchen floor and she was napping, and he told me that the purpose of my life was just to love. He said, and you're doing that. Just do it. And you're doing a good job, so just do it. And I don't know if that is all my purpose is. It doesn't seem like a very grand purpose, but
I don't know. I think in the grand scheme of things, it could make such a difference to this world.
Thank you. I have learned that it doesn't matter what you do, however big or small, the act is, if you do it with love, that's what's big to God. That's what
Yeah.
matters. Even if it's picking up trash on the side of the road, it doesn't matter. If you do it with love, that's what you're going to see. That makes a difference. And, you know, I try very hard to be as non-judgmental as possible. I try to be as loving as possible. And, you know, Jesus told me, don't be so hard on yourself, because I'm my own worst critic. I think we all are, but he, I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. You're doing great. You're doing great. We can move on a little bit if you like, and then come back to that. I'd love to know what your life is like now and what it was like. What was going on at the time of the lightning strike? You said your husband was home. What was happening on this side of the experience, on the earthly side?
That marriage was a very abusive marriage, and it dissolved shortly after the near-death experience. When I came back, for about 6 months, I lived in this state of oneness with God. It was like I was still there.
Yeah.
And I could see things. I could hear things. I could see auras around people. I could see spirits. I couldn't even tell sometimes who was alive and who wasn't. There were so many, you know, and every day I would sit outside and I would watch flowers open up. I would see rainbows at night. I could, you know, it was like heaven was right here. And there was no separation at all. And I felt such the love and I don't know. There was just such a oneness with him still.
What about in your body? So the lightning struck you. You would have had some kind of injuries or some treatment after that. How did that go?
I have what's called a right bundle branch block in my heart from the lightning strike.
So what does that mean?
It's an electrical glitch that I didn't have before, caused by the lightning. I was very sick. I had a lot of chest pain. I was very nauseated. Sent me to the cardiologist, and they ran a bunch of tests and found that they ran some neurological tests on me. So I did get treatment, but it was several days after the fact because he just didn't want any part of any of it. So.
Yeah. And do you have any idea why this happened to you?
I truly believe that the lightning strikes was God's way of saying, hello, I'm trying to talk to you and you're not listening. And so he just kept turning up the volume until got me there.
Do you think you've heard the message now, or do you think maybe there's another one that's to come? And does that scare you, the idea that you could have a fifth lightning strike?
I don't think that he will hit me with another lightning bolt, but I'm not sure what the reasoning is that I keep having these near-death experiences. The third near-death experience kind of picked up where the second one left off.
So what was the order? The drowning, then the lightning, and then the third one, or was it a different order?
No, you had it right. It was the 13 years old of the drowning. then 2005 was the lightning strike, and then this past November, I had emergency surgery and had my third one.
So what happened there? Was that, did you die on the operating table, or what happened?
I did. Yes, I did. And I went right back to heaven, and I'm standing at, there's a beautiful golden wall that surrounds the city. And so, okay, there's the garden, and that's where I was at before. I was in the garden. And there's a beautiful grassy meadow that had these beautiful wildflowers, every imaginable color you could think of. And then there's colors that you don't even have words for. And so between the garden and the golden wall that surrounds the city is this beautiful grassy meadow with the wildflowers. And when I had died from the lightning strike, I noticed a beautiful fieldstone wall that had pink roses growing up and over it. Well, in my third near-death experience, that wall was still there, and I noticed it, and I thought, how beautiful, because I love pink roses, and I just was so drawn to that wall.
Oh, wow.
And it was, so I saw that wall, and so I'm standing at this huge, big, tall, thick, pure gold wall that surrounds the city. And there's this little brown and white beagle puppy that's barking at my feet. And he was so cute and chubby. So I leaned down and I'm petting him and playing with him. And I look up, and there are hundreds and hundreds of people coming out of the garden, and they're walking through the meadow going towards the gates of the city. And there were angels with each person. And I noticed the angels because they were taller and illuminated, and they were wearing blue and white robes, light blue and white robes, sort of like a seafoam color, blue and white. It was beautiful. And they were taller, and they were talking to the people, and everybody was laughing and smiling, and it was like, I don't know, they seemed happy. And what I noticed as I'm standing at the wall, I hear like music from the city, and I hear dishes clanging, like they're getting ready for a party. And I knew it was like, okay, this is going to be a welcoming party for all these people that had died, that are going home. And I was like, I want to go too. And I kept I was hitting the wall and trying to see if I could jump the wall, or how could I get through that. It didn't dawn on me to just walk down a few feet, and there was the city gates, but I never thought about it. But the people that came into my view, there was a couple of, there were men, women, and children. I saw two men who, they must have been Middle Eastern men. They had robes on and things on their head, and they were walking together, and I don't know if they were friends or what, but they were talking to each other and laughing. And then I saw a man, he must have been a construction worker. He still had, he had a yellow helmet on, and he had like a vest that had tools in it. So I don't know if it was a construction worker or a telephone worker or something. And there was two people that also came into my view, and I recognized one of them because a friend of mine, her son had passed away several years ago, and I recognized from pictures I recognized her son, and he was walking with an older gentleman, and it dawned on me, that's your dad. And so when they walked past me, I looked at them and I said, I know you. And they just smiled at me and they went on into the city. Well, later that day, after I'd gotten back from my surgery, I had got on my phone and I had received a message from a friend of mine that this woman's husband had died that day.
Oh, wow, that day.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I was like, yeah, I know. I saw him. And so, and the little puppy, I wasn't sure what the deal with the puppy was until I told my daughter about, told her the story. And she told me, she said, Mom, she said, our neighbor who lived like across the street from us, he got arrested. We had to call the police on him because he had beaten his beagle puppy to death.
Oh, no.
So the whole purpose, I think, was to let my daughter know that the beagle puppy was alive and was okay. It gave her, comfort knowing that our pets go to heaven. And the beagle puppy was there and he was fine. And also to let the other lady know that her husband and her son were together, that they were okay.
So you talk about our pets go to heaven. Do you believe the place that you've been to is heaven? Do you believe that there's a hell? Do you believe that there's another place?
Hell, what I learned about that, and God taught me about that, was that hell is it can be a place. It's not necessarily a place, but it is a state of being. And it is a state of being separated from the loving grace of God by our choices. His love is constant. His grace is constant. But we choose. If we want to be separated from that, that's our choice. And he doesn't put us in hell. We put ourselves there. And it is a state of being. And it can be a pretty dark place, but it's not a permanent place, and we can get out of it. All we have to do is ask, and that light will be right there. And it is not permanent.
That's beautiful. That's quite reassuring, isn't it? That at any point we can get into a better place. Sharon, thank you so much for sharing your stories and giving us a little bit of perspective on what might be after this life. If you had one thing that you wanted to share from your experiences, one message or one key thing you think that we are meant to do here on earth, what do you think that is? What's our purpose?
Love. We're here to experience. We're here to experience and to learn through. There isn't anything that we can do that is ever going to make God stop loving us. And the most important thing that we can do is to love each other and love ourselves too. And whatever we do, if we do it with love, that is what is important. And it doesn't have to be big and grand, and we're not, some people, their purpose in life is to move mountains and touch millions of lives, and some people, maybe only one person, is just as important and just as real. And it's just, I don't know.
I think it always comes down to love.
It does.
Yeah. Sharon, thank you so much for sharing that. That is wonderful. We hope that you're well and that there are no more of these experiences, unless they're meant to be, of course. And yeah, thank you for sharing, and we wish you well.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Let's Talk Near Death podcast show. If you've enjoyed it, please share it with your friends, tell people about it. I'd love to get these messages out there. You can also connect with me on Facebook at Kirsty Salisbury Official, and you can subscribe to receive updates for new episodes as they come about. I'm Kirsty Salisbury, and this is Let's Talk Near Death.